I have a confession to make. I've written multiple scripts on this last video, but I don't really know where it's going to go. I've tried everything I can, but this just has a lot of thoughts and ideas that I don't know where they're going to end up. Basically, I've finished my study, but I don't know if the rest of the things I'm going to talk to you about are actually in the study or they need to have their own study. So let's go. The first thing I want to talk about is the bean machine, or Galton board. A viewer noticed how pinball works the same as the bean machine described by a mathematician named Francis Galton. The concepts described by him went on to create amazing things like Plinko from The Price is Right. The idea is that the ball will most likely fall where it was dropped, but not completely. So even though the highest possibility is center, it does not actually overweigh the other chances. We have tons of games with the idea of the interference of the ball and its likelihood of arriving at the goal. There is an entire game show called The Wall that is based on these ideas. Pachinko and other games are based on this randomness to make the game fun. It is also the beginning of the study of statistics and chance. It's not a yes or no, but a set of possibilities and their statistical chance of it happening. Tons of mathematics have been done with this in mind. There's just one problem with the entire description. The bean machine, as far as I can trace it, was introduced in the 1880s. We have pictures of Abraham Lincoln playing the game pinball was originally based on in the late 1850s, early 1860s. It involved a pool cue and a pool table with pockets all over the table. People would make bets on scores and aiming abilities. Galton was a mathematician then, but his treatise on the subject came after something like pinball was introduced. What does this mean? Galton very likely based his summations on the precursor to pinball. This means innovation and understanding came from a parlor game used for betting. But this brings up my next subject. I've done as much research as I can, and it doesn't matter what society, what set of government, or how things worked. If you want progress, if you want innovation, you have to be willing to break the law a bit. You have to be a little immoral. To be honest, I could have done this study on the internet and porn, but I just like my soul. It doesn't need to be blackened because I've made up a rule that says the more innovative, the more illegal that porn. And I just don't want to be involved with that. So it brings up a question. How can you be a moral person working in an illegal, immoral world? How can you do that? I think a study of Nintendo and how they innovated and how they thought things through would be wonderful. But nobody's really done it yet. The closest thing I think is Sean Maelstrom, but he's kind of opinionated to the point that he gets in his own way at times. I've even asked businessmen how they were able to become millionaires and stuff, and all of them have admitted they broke rules. They didn't do everything that they were told to do and instead went around ideas or did this innovative thing. They had to be willing to change things to get ahead. Meanwhile, all the people that work for them are like, oh, you need to be moral, you need to not do this, this is illegal, you shouldn't do this, and things like that. So, literally, we can't innovate without going illegal or immoral. And it's brought up a lot of questions. How do you innovate without doing that kind of stuff? You know, if you want to start off with a brand new technology, it has to be bad at first. It has to be junk. Most likely it's going to have a front for it. People are going to use it for illegal means. How do you innovate in a moral world? And I don't have an answer to that. The next question I have is, how large are these money laundering schemes? I don't know. I do know that when you study video games, you can see what they are based on the information I've given from the last few videos. And I studied them from the 70s through the 90s, just so that I could be clear. I didn't go any more modern because I didn't want to get in trouble. So that brings up the question, how large can they get? Many of these companies were huge back in the day. So which one was legal and which one was illegal? And that brings up a really weird idea. So the town of Yakima, which I've brought up multiple times, is about 186,000 people. The vast majority of the people there know that money laundering is happening, know about the drug trade, know about it. They know about everything happening. However, that doesn't mean that they know how it's happening. They don't know which shipment is doing what. To them, that's just life in the background. They're getting on with their lives, they're doing their jobs, they're not getting in the way. So, how can you tell? Yakima is 186,000 people and an entire county in Washington state. It's the size of Apple, Microsoft, many of the larger companies in Silicon Valley. So which one of these companies could be a front? I don't know. I have no idea. The problem with asking this question is, how can you tell? What I've noticed is, the larger the company, the more complex they make the bureaucracy. The more complex they make things, the less you're able to figure out how things work. They're running multiple fronts. They're running multiple things. So you don't know how things are working because you don't know which shipment is the drugs, and which shipment is just apples, and which shipment is just Walmart or Amazon or whatever. Just because you have top men looking doesn't mean you know how it works. So you have to really go into details, and even the people working for the company don't know how the details work, much as Yakima, Washington doesn't know which shipment is drugs. So, how does anybody know, and how can you figure it out? And how large can it get? We've already said Yakima can be a front, and most of the people don't know. How big can it get? Can it get as big as, say, a country? I do know it exists, though. I'm going to admit something to you. Anyone who has gone into Palestine has found out that Palestine doesn't exist in the way you've been told. A lot of money goes into it, and then kind of leaves it, and goes into other countries. And then those countries make a lot of trade with Palestine. But Palestine itself exists in a two-part front. One is Syria, Egypt, and the others don't really want to go to war with Israel. The other is, well, there's a lot of those countries that want to sell oil, but they can't because of various embargoes. You have a lot of political science majors who love talking about this conflict that's happening, but anybody who goes and studies it finds out that the war they're talking about ended about 1993, 94? They made peace. Bunch of walls went up. The war ended. Israel won. That's the end of the story. The only reason why it continues is people want oil, and they're willing to help Palestine. They donate money to Palestine, that money goes to another country which has an embargo, and then suddenly oil pops up in that country. It's amazing. All you have to do is give a little rah-rah speech, talk about how evil Israel is, and you get this oil. Oh, man, have you checked the price of oil in certain European countries? Once you start checking that, you start to see the Middle Eastern conflicts and what's going on in a very different way. And that's kind of what I've been thinking about a lot. What is a front? How many fronts are there? I've got to admit, after the end of this study, I didn't know what to think. There are a lot of questions I have, and I don't have a lot of answers. The more you study it, the more of a tinfoil hat you get. And then you have to walk away from the study and go, okay, what's reality? What's going on outside of this study? And it gets hard to get into it. I did learn one final thing. Social media gets more views than any academic paper I've ever written. I assure you, the very low numbers I get on YouTube and BitChute and all the others are way more than I got from any study I've done for academia. So, I'm going to continue making videos. However, I am going to admit I'm going to be moving over the summer, and I've got a lot of studying and other things I've got to do because I'm going into a new master's program, and frankly, my mind needs to go to that. I will continue to make videos, and I intend to do some lesser videos, one small study at a time, some more Castlevania videos, stuff like that. But I hope to continue seeing you. The videos are going to slow down, I'm sorry, but I'll continue to work on things, and hopefully you'll enjoy what you see. Alright, that's the end of my study, and I hope if you get a chance, hit subscribe, maybe consider giving me some Patreon bucks. I don't know. Well, I hope to see you all later. Bye now.